Good morning, everyone. Sir, good morning to my classmates. Good morning to my colleagues. Good morning. This time, I will be discussing the basic leadership styles, which is the authoritative and political leadership styles. I am your presenter, Mr. Salujan C. Moreno, and I'm very glad that I will be discussing this kind of leadership with you, sir and ma'am. I know that all of you, most of you, are already new with this leadership styles. But in refreshment, no, we will try to refresh and review this kind of leadership styles. Let's start. To start, we have the objectives of these discussions. First is to identify and comprehend the importance and true meaning of authoritative and political leadership styles. Second is to evaluate and identify the different items and how to be a good leader. Third is to acknowledge the advantages and the disadvantages of authoritative leadership styles. And lastly, examine and apply the leadership styles in the future career. And I know that most of us are employed, no, private and public offices. So all of us were going to review, no, and refresh our minds with this kind of leadership that we have, especially encountering our boss, our heads in the office. Let's start with this a very quick, meaning of this kind of, which is simply your meaning of the leadership styles. First is the authoritative, or what we call telling. And they call it telling because most of this kind of leadership are actually demanding, supervising, providing task instructions, which is very highly um, recommended, no, of kind of leadership. Political, on the other hand, is what we call selling, because most likely people in the community are always hear the word political. The first thing that comes in their mind is it's like um, political governor, the president, the vice president, the senators, the mayors, and even to the barangays, the captain. But what exactly does political leadership means? Which actually it's selling. At the moment, even me, I always try to reminisce my past when I was trying to help my uncle running for a councillor in the city, which actually just like selling, selling their good deeds, selling their influence to the people so that they could gain a lot of votes to the people, which actually promoters are selling their names, their reputation, so to gain more votes because the one main the major objective of a leader, political leader, is just to gain to win, of course. Okay, let's start. Here we have the authoritarian, or what we call leadership style, which refers to leaders' behavior that exerts absolute authority, which is true. I really believe in this. This kind of leader actually has a absolute authority, provide instructions and demands, um, very autocratic in nature actually, and control over subordinates and demands unconditional obedience. That's according to Fahrenheit 2000, which actually another reference or author provided a um, defined definitions on authoritarian leaders. Expect their subordinates to obey the request without disagreement, just like I still remember in CAT before, or in the NSTP in the military form, which subordinates always obey before complaining, which is the same. Actually, it has the same similarities on this discipline, or what we call personality of a leadership. No, authoritarian leaders actually uh, you have to obey first, and then without disagreement, without argue, before you can complain afterwards. To be socialized, to accept and respect and strict and centralized hierarchy. Another, the leaders identifies a problem, considers alternative solutions, chooses one of them. So this kind of leadership actually select more alternative solutions. Actually, just a plan A, plan B, plan C, and which would be the best solution for that, and then tells others that the way that what they are to do. The leader may or may not consider what the group members will think or feel about the decision. Actually, this kind of leadership actually has an advantage because sometimes subordinates has a good idea which is observed by the leader. Okay, the leader, I'm sorry, but group members clearly do not participate directly in the decision-making process. Question may or may not be used or implied. Okay, so this would be the disadvantage. All right. Um, Another thing, the chief proceeds from the fact that he or she, unlike staff, has a great understanding and competence. But the authoritarian or autocratic, in other words, leaders are distinguished by high level of consciousness, self-control, foresight, and ability to quickly resolve conflicts. Actually, I really actually not like this kind of leadership styles, autocratic. I have a superior head before, which I really relate and much on this because he was a really autocratic person. Um, Whatever he thinks, whatever he wants to be done by the subordinates, which actually we always obey, we always obey because of course we cannot gain our salaries and wages without his um, approval, of course. So we cannot do nothing without those things. But actually, the bad side is if we have a really good idea that we think for the situation, we cannot do for that because, of course, autocratic leaders are really um, only his decision will be made, actually. However, the head of a high qualification will aspire to shift the main burden or responsibility and actively intervene in all processes. A keen long-term aspirations may lead to overstretching or forces and creation of the syndrome or micromanagement. Actually, based on this, also based on experience, actually there are a lot of disadvantages in this because possibly there will be um, solutions that coming from the head which is not actually applicable for the situation, and most likely the subordinates on the other hand which actually doing the part of a resolving the case which actually knows much better sometimes. It's no secret that all management styles are defined by their strengths and weaknesses, so of course I believe in this also. The benefit of the mentioned approach is the head's ability to move to action during crisis or chaos. Here, precious time is not wasted on debates and discussions. So, a crew quickly select solutions from available options. But there may be situations when the leader is most likely not able to offer a better judgment or to implement in the most optimal way. Yeah, I really agree on this because this was happened when I was after my graduation in college. I worked directly at the office where I was taking a practical, and this kind of leadership I encountered already, so I could really relate on this much. Okay, let's proceed to the next slides. Okay, here are the advantages of authoritarian leadership style, or what we call most likely people define as autocratic. It's high speed in making anti-Christ decisions. Of course, very high speed because the moment the leader think of a way or solution is directly um, provide instructions to the subordinates or to the members, which actually they only follow. Okay, success in the current task. Of course, if the leader's idea is very good, then it has a really fast resolve intervention. The absolute responsibility of the manager. Very, I could really could say that absolute responsibility of a manager is very high on this kind of leadership. Okay. Next is clear criteria for reaching objectives and accurate vision of the general state of affairs. Of course, I really agree with this because most of the leaders like this are have the same personality. Okay, let's go to the disadvantages of authoritarian leadership style. Okay, a sharp decline or laborers initiative. Of course, there are also good ideas from the members coming from, but actually not recognized by the leader. So um, besides, leaders are also always the best and correct solution in this type of leadership, increasing a risk of making the wrong choice. This would be the tendency most of the autocratic leaders are in the bad side of this. Okay, the unhealthy psychological climate in a team. All of the members are human beings. We know, as we know, yeah. So the time that there are good ideas coming from the subordinates or the members, which let's say for example a member is very emotional, very sensitive, then when he or she get an answer or get idea for solution and then promote it to the head or to the boss, to the leader, and automatically the leader will going to decline that. So there will be an effect impact for the psychological on every team. Next is the satisfaction of workers with their position. Of course, let's say for example I'm a leader for this area and I have a superior boss. So if I'm going to manage my team and create my own rules and ideas and shall I say intervention for my own situation for my problem, most likely my superior going to make his or his her own decision for my problem. So I mean to say my position will be disregarded with this. So it's probably a disadvantage. It does not guarantee a large scale effect in the long term. Of course, most of this kind of leadership is just a short term, good for short term um, bracket. Okay, let's move on. Application of authoritarian leadership. Visionary type is the most resourceful. I mean, when it comes to resolving single valued and rectilinear assignments. Teams refers to it in controversial situations or during appearing serious problems due to ignoring the guidance of the administration. Of course, this actually happens even now. Bellwethers use it to find a common language with newcomers or create a new image for the firm. Experts recommended that this type of supervision apply exclusively in the short term in relation to single-minded and talented wage earners. It cannot justify itself if the head is not perceived as a reliable person and does not take care of own personnel. Most likely, at this kind of leadership, I could say that the members will always come and go at this type of management because no members would last with this kind of leadership styles. Thus, authoritarian style could lead a crew into world leaders, but one should avoid its escalation into the command manual, which may turn into various forms of abuse of power. Therefore, choose a paternal, benevolent tone with communicating with leaders. Only in this way, you will reach great outcomes. All right, let's proceed to the other one. Let's proceed to the second type, the political leadership styles. Political leadership styles is a fundamental to the success of urban regenerations. Yes. Although this may seem obvious, it's essential to fully appreciate the significance of a political leadership if regeneration projects is to be properly conceptualized, implemented, and sustained. The longitudinal test of political leadership is whether the vision is sustained through changes in political and economic cycles, and whether it results not in a community division but greater cohesion. Actually, it's very common and obvious with this kind of leadership. Actually, most of places we have here in the Philippines are actually this kind of management and leadership that although there are a lot of leadership in the political system that are actually very good in managing the community, in developing areas, in making a progress, no, in certain area in our place. And I could say an example in our place in Valencia, Bukidnon. I could still remember one of the former mayor is actually a man of action. He was called a man of action because of his deeds, which actually the moment he uttered words of instructions and promotions to the city, or actually like for development, actually it was done very well and in firmly manner of demanding. Just like Duterte, I could still difference, no, I mean similarities or distinct of their leadership style. Political leadership, in parsimonious definition, refers to the impact on decision making and political outcomes that results from an action by the holders of political office. Thus, it is connected with leadership styles and may be rooted in certain character traits of the leader's personality. It's basically one of the things that I actually like with this, because the influence the influence of a political leader is actually one of the strength or the encouragement of a people in the community. That, for example, the leader would say, from this time on, I would declare a safety area in all areas of the city. So actually, one of the motivation of the people in that community would be, um, they're holding the what we call the motivation of making the place safe. It's like just like Davao City when the Duterte supervised even now, her I mean his beautiful daughter Sarah, which actually making the city safe, making the city develop and progressive. So actually, it's one of the things that influence, just like aspire as people going to live in the city. Okay, let's proceed another um, our discussion. The world is brimming with ambitious political leaders. Of course, I really agree on this because different nations are actually trying to make their own good impact or good fame to other leaders in the other countries, which actually promoted and obviously newscast. But sadly, very few match ups to the traits of good leadership. In fact, many political leaders appear to be severely lacking in some of the most essential qualities of a good leader, such as integrity and accountability. This too very hard to grasp by a political leader, because the moment they utter a word during the election, they actually disregard the integrity and accountability on what they are saying, because this is what I've always heard from a political rally. It's no coincidence that the word politician has many negative connotations. Yes, true. It's very true. The word politician has the most negative connotations and even feedbacks on different areas, but not all, okay, in general. But experience tells us that there is only a handful that comes near to the principles of leadership and shows strong indicators of a successful political leader. Okay, political leaders are vital. They determine the allocation of power and money through governmental policies, establish partnerships with other stakeholders, and make decisions that can have a major effect on a nation's well-being and its citizens. Actually, it has some mutual benefits that the stakeholder, the investors, and the political leaders, just to provide progressive and development to the city or to the area. Political leadership requires a leader to focus on a country's long-term betterment. That's why, if we have remembered, no, we have the SDG, that many 40 years from now there will be a development where what they call they visualize what will be the Philippines look like in that year 2040. So just like making a long-term um, plan is actually a good one. No, it's the hard part is the way they or the moment they're going to implement this one. The leaders going to implement those plans is the hardest part. Okay. Above all, leadership in a democratic system needs statesmanship as a compared to just becoming a politician, which implies processing the honesty and ability to stand up for what is fair, even though it means resigning a government post or losing an election. Actually, the moment a politician lose, no, in the election, everything vanish. There are a lot of politicians that running are just lost their fames after the elections. The moment they lose. Okay, let's proceed. What makes a good leader or political leader? Okay, that's a question. What makes a good political leader? So how or what we're going to do, no? Or if we would will become a political leader in the future. A person with good political leadership skills will prove to be a successful leader who can easily distinguish between a success and failure. A successful leader has a visionary dream and understands how to turn his visions into success stories in the modern world. Let's look at some of the skills required to be a successful political or politician or political leadership. I mean, number one, good communication or good communicator. Actually, this is the very, very most common problem. And on the other side, the very good feedback for the people if the political leader is very good in communication. Because actually, in business, in management, actually, in the organization, on the other side is that the communication is the bloodline or the blood of the organization to grow and to be successful. So in the community, communication is one of the strongest foundation between the people and the political. So if a political leader is a good communicator, thus it will be a good indicator that what I mean, all the request or the pleas of the people in the community about your problem or the community will be actually immediately, no, received by the leader. Second, honesty and integrity. This one of the great, no, thing that the leader should have it. Honesty and integrity. The moment a person will promise or a political leader will promise to the people that he will do that, he will do this, so he must or she must do that thing to maintain, no, the trust of the people. Third, decision maker. Of course, if you are a leader, you always have to get involved with the decision making. Decision making is one of the things that's very hard to do because you are actually evaluating the good and the bad side, including the result of what you are doing to do, or shall I say, making a solution for a problem. Because what you are going to decide is you are accountable of whatever the result. I believe in that. Fourth, must be able to inspire others. Okay, of course, it's one of the things that or personality that a leader have. Okay, especially a political leader's lifestyle. Must delegate takes task. I mean, effectively, and last is man with a vision and a purpose. Of course, I could say that very few political leaders have this number six, man with a vision and purpose. Because if you're just running for money, if you're just running for a fame, if you're just running for a influence of the people for your own interest, then you don't have a vision and a purpose in your life. Or in the other side, if you're just running to help the people, to have a vision of what you are looking for the betterment of the people in the near future, you know what? It's not the people that you are actually making a good um, future. It's all also for your family because you are living the same with the people. So if you're just running for money, then you better not run. Okay. The political leader's first goal should be presenting one's government, not just oneself. Given the reality that politics may be complicated, yes, very complicated politics, I could say that. I really could say that because politics are actually very, very complicated. I could see and observe my uncle, who is a politician before and even now. A complicated life, very complicated, I could say. And often messy, of course. A strong leader should balance their actions with what is right and for a nation and living by the maxim, the nation before self. Consequently, a political leader will be able to take severe actions in the interest of the country if required. Yes, do likewise, no. A leader should be able to recognize unique sector specialists who are confident, more critical, and a leader should realize when it is best to believe in authority. Leaders will have the correct expertise to take prompt and reasonable actions based on sound judgment. Actually, there are also leaders that are actually just basing on the feedback from the community, based on what they hear, what they observe, and what will be the news coming from them. Okay, so let's proceed. Um, just to end up, no, or before I end up with this discussion, I really like this quotation of Mac Anderson. Great leaders, great leadership usually starts with a willing heart, a positive attitude, and a desire to make a difference. Actually, if if I'm a leader, a political leader, I will always bring this quotation, which is great leadership usually starts with a willing heart. Of course, if you have the heart to manage or to run the organization, even a political leadership, or political aspect, you should have a positive attitude in your life, and of course have a desire to make a difference, because if what would be the situation that you are just entering, you have to make it a development to make an impact to the community, that you are a good leader. Because if you are the leader that coming from the situation and then getting out with the same result, you're not a good leader actually. So at this very moment, thank you very much, sir and ma'am, and classmates, and to my group mates. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Thank you for your ears that lending. Thank you for your presence, no, of I mean, watching the discussions until the end. So I could say that may God bless us all, and I'm hoping that we could gain just a little bit of things that have to ponder in the future. So good morning, everyone, and thank you.